feel free to chat the questions, ask the questions, and we'll definitely have time to answer them. You know, there's that thing about hours, you know, 900 hours to be a broker. Should some experience count toward hours? And if so, how much? Should there be a limit? So the broker responsibility group is looking at everything to do with the broker and their responsibility. I will say that TREC has certainly done some major changes in the last 4 months under this COVID-19 quarantine. Chelsea took over and she basically has everybody working from home except 2 or 3 people that will come in and open the mail. This is kind of unbelievable. We still process about $250,000 worth of paper checks every month. So that has to be completed. So even though a lot of people are working from home, we do have people come in and opening the mail and doing the mail. They are beginning to open back up. I think everybody was leaning that way, and then the governor came out with some new restrictions and some new suggestions and guidance. So that's been kind of slowed down a little bit. We're in the middle of the budget process. I will tell you, the new chief financial officer, extremely happy with her. She's dissecting everything. Some of the things that we had going on at the agency was there are some big items coming up, some database upgrades and database systems and stuff. We're talking, you know, a couple, $3-4 million for some of these projects. And we had stuff in the reserve, but it wasn't earmarked. So we're going in and earmarking specific dollars for you know, big item projects like I think every business should do, every association, every agency. So she's really taken hold and is doing that. And she started in May. So she's getting that going. I wanted to go over a couple numbers real quick. I know when I talked to y'all in September, we talked about TREC had a difficult time answering the phone. You know, during sunset, it seems like so long ago, we had almost a 17-minute hold time. I will tell you, the last 9 months, average hold time is 1 minute and 27 seconds, okay? The last 2 months, April and May, we have been under 20 seconds, okay? Extremely proud of the call center and the job they're doing. We were having a conversation the other day, and I was like, wouldn't it be really great if we got to where when you called, they immediately said, hello, how can I help you? And then someone always looking at it, you know, from the other side, say, okay, well, if they do that, does that mean they don't have anything else to do and we have too many staff? And so I just kind of smiled and thought, you know what a great position to be in when we were almost 17-minute hold time. Now we're under 20 seconds. The calls averaging about 15,000 calls a month. The last 3 months, it's been 14,000, 10,000, and then 13,000. I think June and July are going to see a big increase, mainly because a lot of people got their renewals delayed. So I think the calls are going to be coming in. But even the highest month, which was January, almost 22,000 calls, we were still just at 2 minutes, okay? So I think we're doing a great job with that. You know, walk-ins have been non-existent because the agency has been closed the last 2 months, so those numbers are kind of deceiving. Customer satisfaction, we rank really high with customer satisfaction. The only problem is, I mean, 71% of the people thought we hit it out of the park. The only problem with that is we only had 107 respondents. So we really have to work harder to get more people to respond and give us a true, accurate number of overall. But I think overall everybody's doing really good. Just total license numbers. This is kind of neat. There are currently 203,000 licensees that we oversee. 196,000 licensed sales agents and brokers. Of that, 162,000 are active. I covered this number when I was in your association last September. Let me look for these numbers. There's 149,000 total sales agents. Of those, 31,000 are inactive, so there's 118 active, okay? There's 46,000 licensed brokers. Of those licensed brokers, only 1,800 are inactive. So you do not have a lot of brokers that are inactive. Most of them keep their license active. But when you do total everything together, inspectors, easement right-of-ways, about 203,000 licensees is what TREC supervises. There was a huge increase in licensees in between May and June. I'm sorry, between April and May. In the month of May, almost 1,700 new agents, and a lot of that was when the COVID hit. Pearson VUE, our testing center, was shut down. They shut down for everything, not only real estate testing, but anything else they tested for, they shut down. They opened back up, and once they opened back up, there was a huge influx of people trying to pass the test. I believe the first 24 hours or maybe 48 hours, there were 414 people signed up to take the test. So what Pearson VUE said, they said, okay, we're going to rent ballrooms, just anything we can, hotel lobbies, whatever we can to get as many testings done as we can with the social distancing to get them started. So they went to a lot of offsite places. The biggest issue with that, there was a lot of offsite places, hotel ballrooms and stuff like that weren't open, okay? But, I've got to give them kudos because they certainly stepped up and tried to get as many people in there to take the test as possible because there was a delay. Okay, let's talk about enforcement. That's always a big topic. In May, there were 378 violations, enforcement received. 112 of those involved broker and sales, and the rest were split between, inspectors and so forth. 132 were application investigations, and this is something that I don't think people realize is if someone applies for a license, they have to complete the full investigation before they can issue a license. We're actually would like to see legislative change to where someone can submit their background check prior to taking the classes to see if they will be eligible for a license to begin with. This might speed up the actual application process. We always look at how many complaints came in and how many were closed. And last month we received 378, we closed 414. So we're staying up on top of those. As far as time frame, 70% of those are under 6 months owed, 0 to 6 months. 27% are over 6 months, and then only 4% are over a year, with 1% being 18 to 24 months. And a lot of those involve appeals and SOA actions and stuff like that. Somebody asked me the average time from the time you apply till you get permission to take the test. I will tell you that it depends on a lot of different factors. We're trying to get where we can control that and track it a little bit better. It is not unusual for us to have someone apply and never take the classes, never submit documents, and then have to reapply or apply, and 9 months later they get the stuff together. So we're really trying to track, once we get the documentation from them taking completing the classes, to taking the test, to passing the test, what kind of time frame are we looking at from an agency? That way we can grade ourselves on how fast we're moving through. I know some of y'all go to our website regularly. I encourage you to go look at the May reports. There's a whole lot more detail in this. I had this number and I probably lost it. Just the number of pages viewed, almost 1 million, at one point like 7 million a month pages viewed on our website, which to me shows that people are getting in there and looking at information and finding information. We talked about the budget process. We will meet again in August and probably adopt the budget for that. I think most of you, if you do not know, in May of this year, there were some contract changes proposed, major changes in paragraph 4, moving the licensee disclosure to paragraph 8, making paragraph 4 everything to do with leases, whether it's solar panel, security system, natural resources, whatever. And then there's some changes in paragraph 18. And I think everybody's talking about the change in paragraph 23 and do with the option money and whether or not the option money can be deposited with the title company in one or two separate checks, with the title company having permission to disperse directly to the seller. This was originally proposed, I'm trying to think, in August of 19. It was pulled back in November of 19. Broker Lawyer Committee brought it back to us in May, and we will look at it again in August. I think everybody would love to see some changes in the option money. I think personally as a broker, I would like to see more disclosure on leases being involved because they're not always on the seller disclosure if they're exempt from seller disclosure. We've had situations where leases have popped up and nobody knew about it just a couple of days prior to closing because of UCC searches. So I think everybody is in favor of getting a cleaner, more transparent contract as far as what leases are pertaining to the property, whether it be solar panel security, whatever it is. And I think everybody would certainly like the option fee cleaned up if it does go to the title company. I will tell you, Broker Lawyer did a tremendous job vetting this. If you have full disclosure, I put an application for Broker Lawyer Committee several years ago, and I've listened to 2 or 3 of their meetings, and it is quite obvious I am not smart enough to be on that committee. If you have a chance to listen to that or go back and watch it, the way they dissect and break down issues and make sure when they do some of this contract, it works for everybody. They just do a phenomenal job. I'm not sure what's going to happen with these contracts. We're open for comments. You can email me comments. You can email Trek General Counsel comments. I know Broker Lawyer is going to meet again on the 17th and go over these changes. We've had conversations with title companies about the option money and, you know, receiving the option money and almost making it like a commercial contract where you have $1,000 earnest money and $100 of that is considered option, 2 separate checks. The way it stands now is you have earnest money and you have option money. It can be delivered to the title company in 1 check or separate checks, and the title company is dispersed. It says without further notice, consent from anybody, they can release it to the buyer. That's the way it stands now. Like I say, we don't, personally, I don't know if it will go the way it is, but I do know we're going to move forward and we're going to try to get these problems, you know, worked out. And so it's a cleaner process for everybody involved. I'm trying to think what else I had on my notes. We talked about the possible leases. In May, we did talk about increasing hours for renewal to include 3 hours of contracts. Okay, it came out of the Education Standards Advisory Committee that we have 3 hours of contracts and raise the hours from 18 hours to 21 hours. The commission went a little bit different direction. They agreed with the 3 hours that for contracts, but they did not increase the number of hours. So I believe the 3 hours will become effective in January of 2021 or February. I can't remember the exact date, but you will be required to take 3 hours of contracts. Now, one thing that I do want to stress that I think was very, very important, this 3 hours of contracts is not going to be a promulgated class like Legal 1, Legal 2, and broker responsibility, okay? They will be locally driven. Okay, if you're in a market and there is a huge issue with you designing to help you with that specific item, okay? All right. Christy, I'll be glad to open up for questions or anything. I was probably a little bit longer. Do I go to the question and answer what they are? Okay.
I do have some Q&A that came.
The extension renewals in July 30th.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just opened it. Somebody
Okay.
wanted to know if the deadline for renewal July 30th is the final date. And yes, I do not see that it being extended anymore, but that is strictly probably based on how it's going. I would say there would be no way it would be extended. Now with the resurge and more cases, there's a possibility. But when it was extended to that looks like that was going to be the last one. Now, somebody brought up a point the other day that uh, anything you take after your renewal date does not count for the next renewal date. Does that make sense? Otherwise, you can't hoard hours now and use it for your next time. Okay, so the classes will count toward this last renewal. I heard 1 to 4 contracts was supposed to be updated, but the update was delayed. What is the update on that? Okay, if you will either email me or go to Trek's website, the draft forms are there. They are not updated. They are subject to the commission voting on them in August to update them. The way that works is broker lawyer committee, they propose it. We have put it out for public comment. We are receiving a ton of comments on that. And so they've not been updated yet, but they're certainly on the table to update. And if you do not have a copy of those, you can get them from Trek's website. I think Texas Realtors also have them posted, or worst case, you can email me and I'll try to drop you a copy. What do you see regarding COVID addendums, and what caution would you have for us when we're out in the field? Okay, most of the COVID addendums are from the association. As a company, each client is making the decisions what they want to do. Okay, whether or not they want to go with no showings or limited showings or limited number of showings is strictly up. We're handling it from each client and each agent. It says my company is a provider. When will the course applications be online so we can renew rather than doing the regular mail-in paper process? Great question. That is something we're definitely looking at as far as renewing. I used to teach pre-license in CE, and when I was appointed to the commission, that got limited. But I do know that is one of my favorite topics. Is it should not take as long to get a class renewed, and so we're definitely working on getting that online also. I enjoy taking Zoom classes. Can CCAR and my brokerage continue to offer these classes this way? Zoom classes are considered live classes right now, and I think ESAC, the Education Standards Advisory Committee, is going to be very anxious to look at how this can be still be part of getting the license. I have taught about 20 hours through Zoom for our agents as far as CE, and I've taken almost 20 hours in New Mexico CE through Zoom, so it is definitely something we're going to be looking at. So only 7 hours will be elective CE for those renewing with 18 hours. 4 is legal 1, 4 is legal 2, and 3 hours will be a contracts class. I believe that starts January. It could be as early as December, but I don't want January and February sticking in my head. But you're right. I will add, if you're a broker or supervisor, you will need the 6 hours of broker responsibility also. And so that does not leave a lot of hours, but that 18, that is minimal. A lot of people have a whole lot more than 18 when they renew. Okay, I've got one chat. No more questions. Y'all are like way too easy.
I was going to let everybody know that joined us after you got started that this is webinar format, so you're not visible and we cannot, you'll be on mute, but please participate by answering any questions in the Q&A function so we can get the conversation rolling there. Thank you.
Let me throw something out that we've been hearing. We've been doing we were supposed to go all over the state of Texas and do like 7 meetings with the agents and brokers and everybody about, the direction of Trek and what Trek's going to be like in the future. and what issues we need to work on. And we've done 3 of those virtually. We have not done any in person, and I think we've had good feedback. There's still nothing like being in the room and asking the questions. One thing that has came up in several different markets were wholesalers and selling equitable title. And currently, the way the statute reads is you can sell equitable title. You need to disclose it's only equitable title. I think it's kind of odd. The disclosure can either be in writing or verbally. And so I think that's probably some stuff that's probably going to be looked at over the next legislative session. I think broker responsibility might also look at when agents are involved in wholesaling, as far as the brokers still having some oversight on that. And then as far as the complaints, a lot of the complaints are still involving fiduciary. Let me pull those up real quick. Fiduciary property management, of course, is a big complaint. I just made it small, I can't read it. Yeah, negligence, rebates, referral, and earnest money are still the biggest one. Somebody just asked me, who was your favorite TAR chairman? Was it Dan Hatfield? And I will tell you, Texas Realtors are celebrating 100 years this year. And if I had to list my favorite chairman from 1 to 100, Dan would be on the list somewhere in that range, okay? Hope y'all got to listen to Dan and Senator Cruz today. He did a good job. I've never seen Dan so quiet, okay? So the next highest one is licensure issues for complaints. That's background checks and probationary licenses issued. And then broker supervision is right there with 6% of the complaints being on broker supervision. That's actually higher than advertising complaints and intermediary disclosures. Just straight license broker supervision. Okay. Other questions? Krista, they're like very bashful.
I know. I thought that maybe being hidden would be get a little more participation, but I don't see anything else coming through.
How many of y'all have looked at the new contracts? Just curious. I mean, if you like it, make a comment you like it. If you don't like it, make a comment you don't like it. And if whatever you do, please get comments to general counsel. I was shocked before I got on the commission that a lot of the changes and a lot of the things they look at, it's not where 100 people ask for it. It's where 2 or 3 have a concern. They look at it and they change it and they open it up for discussion. So, we need your input. We're getting, David says option fees and title companies handling them. Any thoughts? Yeah, I mean, what do you, let me add to that. We were talking to one title company about, do you want the responsibility? If there's a title company on here, I'd love for them to join in and chat. I said, do you want the responsibility for taking the option money and dispersing it to the seller? And I won't say names, but one of them said, what do you mean take the liability? They're leaving it at our office now, and we're giving it to the seller. He goes, this will reduce our liability as a title company. And I thought that was a very unique approach from a title. I'm not saying that's TLTA's position. I'm just saying one title company definitely made the comment. Someone said, what's the deadline for comments on the contract? I would say probably the deadline is probably going to be, it might be posted like July 12th or 13th. I believe broker lawyer meets July 17th. I will tell you this, the commission meets in August. So even if you put a comment in August 2nd, if we meet on the 3rd or 4th, we're gonna look at your comment, okay? As far as getting it to broker lawyer, I think it's the 12th or 13th because they do meet the 17th. Says, I see a lot of new agents, they're lost and have no mentors. If having them take 90 hours, they're supposed to prepare them, but they are not, should the hours be reduced? the attributes to the number of complaints, okay? Wow, you know, I think that gets back to the broker responsibility. It's such a different market. I got licensed 26 years ago, and you know, not only did I have, I think, a great trainer and an incredible broker that took the responsibility, but everybody else in the business also took the responsibility to make sure that the transaction was treated fairly and all parties were treated fairly. And it's a little bit different now. We're in El Paso. We struggle getting 90 hours of education for our new agents. And I'm going to be very blunt, because if y'all know me, I'm very blunt. I'm a blunt person. I call it like I see it. We are encouraging our agents to take GRI. You know, whether you log in, and we have not had one in El Paso in over a year and a half, they're logging in and taking it, you know, via, you know, the video. And so I think that's a great way to get the 90 hours. I don't see the 90 hours being decreased any. I really don't. But I'm hoping broker responsibility will certainly help that. As far as the complaints, I'll make a note. I will try to get the number of complaints filed on someone licensed under, let's say, 4 years, 2 years, or whatever. Okay, that might be interesting to see. I do know every morning I get an email with agreed orders, and every time somebody is sanctioned or revoked or suspended or whatever, I get an email, and I'm going to say, I mean, probably the large 75 to 80% of those will say they've been licensed so long with no history of a complaint. We had this number, I believe it's like 1.8% of all the licensees. The complaints have only came against like 1.8% of the licensees. So when you see 400 complaints, you have to realize that is not a huge number for the number of licensees and transactions. It's still too many, don't get me wrong, but still less than 2% of any licensee has ever had a complaint filed on them. And I think that's a number you have to look at also. Krista, we got some chat down here. Are they chatting down here? Let's see.
Starting with Joe Boggs. Mm-hmm.
Was there further discussion adding to the contract some recourse or obligation if the buyer switches lenders? Joe, I have not seen that. As far as recourse or obligation if the buyer switches lenders, that's interesting. I'll be honest, I've not heard that. I'm kind of smiling. I think, you know, I got a couple of transactions that'd be a great idea, and I got a couple that, thank goodness, they switched lenders and we got it closed. So yeah, interesting. David, seller disclosures and agents assisting and actually completing them. I'm seeing this. Okay, as a broker, it scares me to death that an agent would help fill out a seller disclosure. We had a conversation with a very large brokerage in a very large city. I won't say where, but I think the Cowboys play real close to there, and the Rangers have a new stadium. And they got taken to court over the seller disclosure. And this is more of a broker comment than a Trek comment. And so during the deposition, they kept asking the broker, your agent did not fill this out. Your agent did not fill this out. And they said, our agent did not fill it out. The clients fill it out. And they went to the last page and they said, who filled out the utility companies? And the agent said, oh, well, I filled out the utility companies. And the attorney said, I thought you didn't touch this. So, man, there are services available to have that seller disclosure filled out. But yeah, it scares me as a broker if my agents are filling it out. Rebates, we're seeing rebates. That was, of the complaints, I think that was number 2 on the number of complaints as far as rebates. No, that's part of number 1. Yeah, 30% of the complaints involve negligence, rebates, or referrals, okay? So rebates are a very, very large part. Currently, if you get a rebate or marketing agreement from a home warranty company, that needs to be disclosed. There's other rebates that aren't, but all rebates should be disclosed, and I agree I mean, 30% of our complaints, you know, rebates are in that thing. So I think you're right as far as it affecting the rebates. Olin J. How is Olin J? Wow, I didn't know you were still around. Okay, well, good night. Do you expect the number of licensees to decrease over the next year or so because of the economic and medical crisis? You know, I think they're going to be steady. I really do. Of course, I'm looking at my crystal ball to say that. We're not seeing any slowdown at the local academies and haven't been. So I think people will still get into the business. You know, I think David might have this number better than me, but like every 3 years or 4 years, we're almost 30% turnover in the Realtor Association. It's a large number. Okay. How do we complain if we take a class with a company and they spend valuable class time promoting themselves? I did not sign up for infomercial, but to learn. You know what? I would send an email to the education department at the Texas Real Estate Commission. I had someone call me last Sunday and said they just, or 2 Sundays ago, said on Father's Day, they said they just finished 18 hours of CE and it took them about 45 minutes and was very unhappy. And I asked them to email me and I forwarded it in. You know, I think a lot of providers do an incredible job doing it right. I think a lot of schools do an incredible job doing it right. But there are those that probably need to draw their attention to maybe an instructor. And I'm an instructor. And so sometimes instructors need to be, you know, brought up that, you know, they need to spend less time promoting themselves in their industry and more time educating. So y'all, TREC is there to hear these questions, these issues, these complaints, and they will certainly work on them. We have broker responsibility working group working on broker responsibility. We have the Education Standards Advisory Committee working on education. We have broker lawyer committee working on the the contracts and the addendums. We have an inspector committee that does incredible work. You cannot imagine the amount of time that goes into the inspectors and making sure that they're licensed and doing what they're supposed to do. I'm also licensed in New Mexico. I'm a qualifying broker there. And until a year ago, their inspectors weren't licensed. So, you know, these task forces, groups, committees are there to move the agency forward. So do not be bashful. Let them know. Email me. I will send it to whoever I need to at TREC. And I promise you, you'll get a response. If you don't get a response, email me again and you will get a response. Okay.
We had another comment.
As an instructor, Legal 1, Legal 2, I find many people have questions about LLCs, not just for investors buying, selling, but also to reduce their tax liability. And CPAs are given bad advice about commissions being shared. You know, one of the things we talk about when we're touring the state of Texas, sitting in our chair, not actually going around, but we're supposed to be going around, we talk about our rules need to be transparent and simple to understand. And the LLC rules are so far from that as far as being easy to understand and transparent. I would love some specifics as far as what the CPAs are giving, because I think the LLCs is something that's been brought up several times, and I think it's something that needs to be disclosed. I think if you look at some of our sanctions and fines, it involves LLC. I don't know exactly where it's at on the complaint order. It might be under the sales other the highest one, but no, there is definitely some issues with LLCs, and I will take that to the executive director and general counsel, because it has certainly came up. I also teach Legal 1, Legal 2, and even after I teach Legal 1, Legal 2, the LLC is still not crystal clear. Okay. Other questions?
Anybody have anything else before we conclude? I'm not seeing anything else come through yet, Scott.
Okay. How's y'all's membership? Are y'all
As far
getting
as-
some? Has your membership increased over the last month or two since people started taking the test again?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Deadlines for comments. We got that. Option fees. Nobody made any comments about option fees and title company handling option fees. Nobody made any comments, good, bad, or indifferent. All right. Okay. Okay. Wow. No, they can't. Yeah. Somebody LLC, and as far as getting a license. Something that I want to talk to y'all about real quick. I'm not an expert, but it came up. I've got a really good friend that lives in the Austin area, and had another good friend. You know, you always have a friend of a friend, and that's when you say you're lying, you're the one that's really with the problem. But this was really a friend of a friend, and they had a small brokerage, and they had 7 agents. You can see I got people coming by. They have 7 agents. The broker was in an accident and ended up passing away. There was not an exit plan for that brokerage. There was not anything for the family of that broker to do except shut the office down. Man, if you're a broker or you're an owner and you have a broker, you need an exit plan just in case something happens. This was sad, but there was absolutely nothing anybody can do. So just, make sure that if you are a broker, you do have some type of exit plan in case something crazy happens. We certainly went back and restructured our brokerage, so that would be part of it. I want to know as a broker how you are staying relevant and what you do different. Okay. I am staying relevant, and some of y'all know my history. I was very involved with the Texas Realtors. I was chairman of the Texas Realtors, very involved with the National Association, regional vice president, and now with TREC. Man, I communicate with our agents at all times, whether it's if they have a question, I will try to Zoom the comments if they're having an issue. You have to build a relationship with your agents just like you do with your clients. And I tell everybody, we spend all this time, building client base and finding new clients. 70% of your time needs to be spent taking care of the clients you already have. Because there is nothing better than being an agent, going in and listing a house and seeing another agent's calendar on the refrigerator. Okay, nothing better than that. So we stay relevant by building the relationship with our agents, building the relationship with our clients. Somebody said, I like the idea of the title company accepting the option fees. I do too. Even though they only have 1 vote, I think it clears it up. I talked to someone in the Dallas area, and y'all tell me if you're doing this. When you get option, you're overnighting it to the seller. You're overnighting it so it gets there. And some people are doing the Venmo or the PayPal or whatever it is. So yeah, I think that's a really good idea to get it to the title company. How they do it, how they disperse it is going to be probably the big question. We had a broker say they will not disperse it without all signatures, even though paragraph 23 specifically states they can. This broker does not think they will. Okay. You use Zelle and Go Option Pay. I guess that's like a Venmo. I don't use Venmo. Y'all might find this odd. I don't even have a debit card. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but I keep cash, or else I just don't buy it. I don't want a debit card. Then my wife will know if I'm buying her like a big diamond or something. She'll know where I'm at. So, okay. Other questions?
We got one more question that came through.
Okay. Did I miss it?
Okay. I'll ask it.
It's under question and answer. Got it.
Yeah, under the Q&A. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't have it.
I'll ask it. What about the next legislative session? Over and above the obvious COVID health and economic issues, will there be much activity related to Trek licensing, etc.?
Yes, and I will go to my cheat notes and give you some more answers if I can find them, which I can't find them. Number one, Trek cannot lobby. Okay, Trek cannot lobby. I cannot lobby. That's why, you know, the relationship we have with the associations, whether it be the Realtor Association, Apartment Association, Title Association, all those are very, very important. I think some of the things we're going to have to deal with are some, definitely some COVID. I think we're going to have to deal with some as far as drones, getting some simpler rules on that. I think having your background verified prior to issuing a license is going to take some effort legislatively. I think maybe doing some, I don't want to say cleanup, but I say cleanup changes in wholesaling and broker responsibility for their agents is probably going to take some legislative action. And so that's what I'm seeing right now. The last legislative session, I think the Real Estate Commission did not get as much done as they wanted to. I think if you know the history of the last session, we were in the middle of sunset, and so we probably weren't in the position to move a lot of stuff forward. We needed to take care of what we were doing through sunset and making sure that we addressed everything that we did address in sunset. I think the commission has done an extremely good job on that. We talked about our whole time. Our drop call rate is less than 3%. And at one time it was 68%. That's, to me, is just a phenomenal number that 68% of the people that called in did not talk to anybody. So that's less than 3%. So I think that's what we've been looking for legislatively. I think it's gonna be a very interesting legislative session, just with everything going on. And then I think education, what we can do as far as Zoom and online education is going to probably take some time too. Okay.
Oh, there's another one that came through on the chat.
The broker responsibility class is being rewrote now, as we talk about. Okay, we've used Zelle and online. Any specific thoughts on geographical competency? I saw someone post a comment on social media about them moving to a new market and getting competent. That geographical competency was something that I think we definitely needed. I talked to a broker friend of mine here locally, and he had an agent whose son bought a house in another area of Texas, and said that he started talking about the compensation. And I told him, we would not go compensation. So I asked him about competency. I said, I'd be more worried about your agent being competent in that market than I would anything else. And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, are they competent? Well, they joined the MLS. Well, I just don't know if that makes competency. We've got an area in El Paso called East Ridge, and one of the very first houses I sold was in East Ridge. And some of y'all heard this story, but you're going to hear it again. And my broker said this was in March, and my broker said, well, did you tell them about Christmas? I was like, well, why would I tell them about Christmas? It's March. He goes, because in order for them to get home, they're probably going to have to wait in line 45 minutes to an hour just to get into that neighborhood because of the Christmas lights. That, to me, is geographical competency. It's not just price per square foot. It's what's going on in that market. And I think geographical competency should help fix that, but it's got to be fixed amongst ourselves, okay? Be really careful on social media making comments. It just scares me, some of the stuff that's made on social media. That's why I just stay off of it. I mean, I'll post about my granddaughter or my wife being mean, but very seldom will I, on social media and post a whole lot. And if you follow me, that's the truth. Other questions? Okay.
Didn't see anything come through.
What else I make up? Y'all be sure and just get your comments in on anything you want. You know, we really wanted from March when Chelsea officially started until, you know, September, October, we really want to get all over the state of Texas and meet everybody and shake their hands and do all this, you know, non-COVID stuff. And we've really been kind of locked down, but we are certainly trying to reach out and you get comments. Is property management still one of the highest complaint areas? And yes, it is. We had leasing and property management was 11%, and leasing and property management misappropriation of funds was almost 4%. So add them together, they'd be almost over 15%. That would be the second highest. So just over licensure issues. So yeah, it's still a large area as far as complaints. And I think y'all had one of the largest, you know, property management cases and complaints and legal fund in the history of the state of Texas in your local market. So it is still one of the highest complaint areas. I'm still amazed how many times, you know, that people do not understand the process of property management and how just important it is to, you know, to have more knowledge than just a license to do property management. We manage about 250 properties, and man, we try to stay on top of it because it is one of the highest complaint areas, definitely. Okay. Unlicensed activity is still, you know, almost 6% of the complaints, and that always astonishes me that how much unlicensed activity there is that actually goes on in the state of Texas. And I don't know if that's a breakdown with how many people are actually unlicensed or working as an assistant for someone who is licensed, but it's still unlicensed activity. And so that is still a major issue. All right. Is that it?
I think so. I didn't see anything else come through.
I'll give you last call. Is that what you normally say when you're about to close?
Sure.
All right.
You got a shout out. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, thank y'all. And like I said, I would love to come, you know, see y'all in person, even though my granddaughter does not live there anymore. I'd still come. But thank you for hosting this, and hopefully you got some information. I'm going to give my email. That way, if somebody does have something, they can bounce it to me, and I will get it to the people at Trade that needs to take care of it. It's Edge El Paso, EDGE, El Paso, ELPASO @gmail.com. Okay.
I posted that in the comments for you.
Okay. And so, you know, get that. Yeah. You know, get it to me, and I'll get it to the people because, you know, we can't move this agency forward without a lot of help and input. And I've got, you know, another 4.5 years, something like that, to help move it forward. So let me know what we can do to help. Okay.
We got one last question.
Okay. Okay, I don't see it. Is it on the question or chat?
It's on the Q&A. Yep.
All right. You're gonna have to ask it. I don't see it.
Who is your favorite chair, Avis Mukash or Bill Jones?
Oh, wow. Well, Avis probably carries a higher caliber pistol than Bill, so I would probably have to say Avis. Okay. Now, if you tell Bill that, I will say that you misunderstood. Both of them, when I was coming up through leadership at the association, both of them were extremely helpful to me. And to this day, I will still get texts from Avis just out of the blue, commenting on something that happened or asking about something. So both of those were extremely beneficial to me getting involved in leadership. And both of them have been, I mean, just super, super good, not only for the association, but the agency. But y'all asking, but I mean, Dan is still in the top 100. I will leave him in the top 100. Okay. All right.
All right. Well, Scott, thank you so much for the excellent presentation and for being here with us today. It was great to see you virtually, and we look forward to seeing you in person again sometime soon. You always have an open invite at Collin County. So,
All
and
right,
before we, thank you. Before we adjourn, I'd like to invite, I'm sorry, I kept interrupting you. All good? Okay. Before we adjourn, I'd like to invite you all to join us for the next meeting. Like I said before, they will not be weekly anymore. We will have our next meeting Tuesday, July 14th, and we will actually have a Q&A session with Avis Ucash on all things real estate. So she wants you to jump on board and see if you can stump her on the 14th. We look forward to seeing you all then. Thanks, everybody. Bye.